Hello there everyone, my name's The Writing Spartan. Today we're doing a Q&A, a little different than usual. We've got a cosplay Q&A on the way for you. I'm joined by Sorzus today. Thanks for joining me, Sorzus.
Hello, Spartan. Thank you for inviting me here. I'm very glad to share my stuff with the rest of the community.
Yeah, no problem, and I'm looking forward to sharing your awesome work with everyone else as well. So we've got a fair few questions, so we'll just jump right into those. So for those who haven't seen your creations, what armor and props have you made so far?
Well, my first Halo creation was actually the Master Chief armor. It was made out of cardboard and boxes, but it was pretty fun. Then I jumped to my own design armor. It is a Mark IV armor of Halo Wars.
Yeah.
And then I started changing the helmet design. So I decided to try the operator helmet, then the Helios Krill helmet, and also I have made a lot of Halo weapons like the Needler, the plasma pistol, Covenant carbine, the classic Magnum, and an SMG. It didn't came out very well as I expected, but I have it, and I have been trying to improve all of this stuff. My armor, it's pretty cool. I think I got a very interesting final result, but I still think that it may be better.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a large range of stuff that you've made, and it's very unique as well. And the good thing about cosplay is like there's always room for improvement as well. So I guess that's what keeps it fresh, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that in cosplay, you are exposed to that your stuff is going to get broken and you're going to lose pieces. So that's also like an opportunity to try new armor pieces and new techniques.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, cosplay and creating props and armor and stuff is quite a kind of particular hobby. What was it that made you want to start creating like costumes and props?
Well, it was actually like a desire to do something different. You know, I always liked Halloween a lot, and I liked a lot to wear original costumes. Actually, my grandma was someone who introduced me to all of this of creating costumes. She helped me like with the sewing part, making like an outfit. The first cosplay ever I had, I like to say that it was the Avatar Aang from the Avatar series.
Oh yeah.
And it was her who taught me how to knit, how to use the sewing machine, and I started like doing this. Then I went into Halo, and looking at these awesome armors, I just said like, I want one of those, and I started like looking to all the people who has made the armors, the other cosplayers around the world, and I thought like, well, here in my country, that's not a very common thing. The materials are very expensive here, so I started talking to grandma, like, I want to do this, but how could we do this? So we started looking to do what I wanted with the things that we had. So there were the boxes, there were the paintings, there was the lacquer. So we said like, well, we can try. And then we started working, we started trying. And he encouraged me to get ahead. Even when the first Master Chief armor that I did like in 2014 was not a great success. It looked like it didn't look good, but it was fun.
As long as you had fun, though, that's the main thing.
Yeah, a lot. So it has been a process of many years. You can see 2014, my first attempt to make an armor. Then in 2018, I decided like, well, I know how to do many other things now than what I knew back in 2014.
Yeah.
For that moment, I had already build small armor pieces, but like to some Assassin's Creed costumes. So I
Mhm.
said like, well, we can take this to the next step. I want my Halo armor, the Halo armor that I have always wanted, but I don't want to be the Master Chief. I want to be my
Mhm.
own Spartan.
Yeah.
So I started trying, and well, you know, this is tiny figures of Mega Constructs, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Of
I know.
Halo.
Mhm.
Uh, I always liked so much of this that the armor is detachable. So I took one of my figures and I decided like, well, I am going to paint this little guy, and
Mhm.
according to this, I am going to build my armor in real life. So
Mhm.
I did, and it was very fun because I like so much drawing too. So I started like drawing sketches of that little guy. I
Yeah.
started painting his armor, and then going to like to build the full armor. It took me 3 months by like working hard every day to cut cardboard, to paint, to blend the visor into the helmet, to make it right, because I screwed a lot of material in some pieces, like the first helmet I built,
Mhm.
it got stuck in my head. So I said like, oh crap, I have to do this again. And
Yeah.
I kept trying and trying and trying, and finally, well, it was all of this that brought me to the final result. Like my grandma encouraging me, this the situation of my country, that it's not very easy to do cosplay,
Mhm.
uh, and I said like, why not? Why not to turn what I have into what I want?
Mhm. Yeah, it's a very positive and optimistic way of doing things, and obviously the results have come out well for you in the end from the pictures you've shown me, especially the cosplay looks really cool now. Um, so yeah, it's really cool that you kind of just did what you could with the materials you had, and it turned out so well. And I know you touched on it being like a very long process, from painting the little figurine into designing the full armor. How long would you say that kind of took from the initial kind of concept stages up until when you finished it for the main armor?
Well, I think uh, it was at first 4 years, because I started in 2014 with my first attempt of armor,
Hmm.
but I kind of left the project forgotten for
Hmm.
a couple of years.
Yeah.
So uh, it was actually 1 year. In 1 year, I built my full armor, and I started like the imaginating process, I could
Hmm.
say,
Yeah.
like wondering first how would I like to the armor to look, painting the little guy, the figure, and the final step was like getting right into it, building. So it took me like 4 5 months counting the final helmet. So
Hmm.
I could say that the total process of building, just building, was 1 year for me,
Wow.
and imagining it 4 years.
Quite a long time, but it pays off in the end, though, doesn't it? The dedication and the hard work and stuff. You've got a nice selection of helmets and props and armor now for yourself, so it's definitely paid off. It looks really cool.
Yeah, it
Um,
was also because I needed like to learn first
mhm.
how to do everything. It's not something that maybe now, because I already did one armor,
Mhm.
I could build another one. Like actually, I did a Mandalorian armor, and it was like it took me 1 month, but I already knew everything from the Spartan armor, so it was easier to build something when you already knew how to do it.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like the Spartan armor was a lot of trial and error and kind of a lot of learning that went on there, which is why it took a bit longer than the stuff you're doing now, which is normal, right? And obviously you've made quite a lot of different helmets and weapons, like you mentioned earlier. Do you have a favorite helmet or a favorite weapon to go with the rest of your armor?
Well, actually, yes. As I told you, I have the Helioscroll helmet, the operator helmet, and the classic helmet, the Master Chief. I think that's Mark 6. So
Hmm.
um, my favorite helmet, I can say that it's the operator. I don't know why, but the overall design, I think it's very cool. I even edited some pictures for Halloween and painted in the visor like a skull, and I think that it looked beautiful. So I really love this helmet. The part of the lights, like the
Hmm.
night vision stuff, I think it's very cool. And in game, I actually use the operator helmet. And
Oh, that's
about
cool.
the weapons, I still always do the Covenant carbine. The alien design is something that I really like.
I can I can relate to that because the Covenant carbine is actually my favorite weapon in Halo. So
Yeah, you
it's a good
understand.
choice.
It's
Yeah,
actually my favorite weapon too.
yeah, it's a really good weapon in game and both. Like it's cool when you see it as an actual prop as well. So yeah, that's awesome. You know, it's nice to see a different like Halo helmets get represented in cosplay and stuff because a lot of the time you just see Master Chief helmets all the time. So it's nice to see something different, definitely. And
Yeah,
obviously,
actually,
go on,
I think it
go
was
ahead.
cool to do like a helmet of every Halo era, of every Halo like phases of evolution, because we have first the Master Chief armor as the only armor we had in Halo.
Hmm.
Then it came Halo 3, but there was not a lot of different helmets. But in Halo Reach, we had a different, new and yet classic design. And finally,
Hmm.
Halo 4 and 5, like, then I took the Helios Crystal helmet, and I say, like, yeah, these designs, some are really, really cool. So I
Yeah.
wanted to have at least one of each one.
Hmm. Yeah, it's always good to have that variety, especially if you're going to wear your cosplay for back whenever conventions open back up. It's cool to kind of be able to swap out and have different looks for different days or whatever as well. So that's super cool. And obviously, we've talked about you learning and learning as you go and trial and error and stuff throughout you making the Halo stuff. Have you got any tips or advice for those who maybe want to get into making armor or props, but don't know how?
Yeah, I think that what I could say is to keep your motivation. When I started, I didn't knew how to do any of this. I only knew how to draw. So
Hmm.
I started drawing, and then I started thinking how to bring it like to the reality, to make what I was drawing real.
Hmm.
And I said, like, well, I'm going to try. So I think that everything that is needed, it's trying. Try with whatever you have. Uh,
Hmm.
I I have a very interesting story, like, about how all of the final armor started, and it was with building a needler, because I don't know, I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
This thing, I said, like, well, if I want to build it, I need first a base. So I cut a piece of cardboard, but it was flat. It was like 1D, like a drawing.
Yeah.
And I was like that, yeah, it looks cool if I was like in a video game like Mario Bros, where you just see the side, but I want something else. So I started like pasting paper around
Hmm.
to make it look like 3D, like consistent. And first it looked kind of ugly, but then I started like using the internet and also asking grandma, and she said, like, well, you could use that um, glue and paper. I am not so sure how to say that in
Like
English, but
paper
there is a
mache.
proper that
Hmm.
exactly. So I started using that technique,
Hmm.
and I started like coating the weapon, and it is starting getting the shape that I wanted. And then I missed just one thing: the crystals. And I said like, well, what is a needler without crystals?
Yeah.
So for a Christmas, I saw in the Christmas tree of the house some of those decorations that are kind of an ice drop, like an ice spike. I'm not.
Mhm.
So I said like, well, that could be a very good needler crystal. And
Mhm.
for the end of Christmas, Grandma gave me those for my weapon, and I painted the weapon. I installed the crystals, and when I looked at that weapon, I said like, well, I had no idea of how to do this, but
Mhm.
uh, I have in my hand now an actual needler. Maybe it's not the perfect version. Maybe it's not like uh, something that you think like the one that you have in your picture, that it's the actual variant of the
Oh
needler.
yeah. Yeah.
But I said like, well, this was what I wanted, and it's something that I learned to do without knowing anything. Maybe it's not about knowing, but about never giving up.
Mhm.
You just cut some cardboard, use some paintings, try some colors. You're going to screw up a lot of things. Maybe even your clothes trying to paint, or you can occasionally cut a finger trying to cut um, a piece of cardboard. But
Mhm.
if you really want to to see the final result, if you really want like to build something new, to change your reality, because I think that cosplaying it's an act of turning your reality into the image that you could like it. Why not keep trying?
Mhm.
You don't have to know any technique. You just could try using paper mache, using some metallic paintings, anything that make it look more real. Once you have the first attempt completely built, you are going to start looking back and you will say, well, I did it, but I could do it better and
Yeah.
in a different way. By yourself, you are going to start like looking to the internet. The internet is actually a very good source of information about other cosplayers, because even if you see that they do stuff with a 3D printer that you don't have,
Mhm.
uh, you may see how they paste the pieces of their cosplays, how they build the armors, how they build their weapons, and how they attach them. So that it's a very source of good ideas. You have to remember that if you're gonna cosplay, you are not the first, and you are not like alone in this. But if you don't want like to invest a lot of money, it is not necessary. You just need like some time and a good idea. From a
Mhm.
good idea, you can get anything. Everything, I mean.
Yeah, and that's something that applies to not just cosplay but life in general. I guess is never give up. Really, just if you've got a vision and you wanna set out and complete it and reach that goal, then just do the best you can, and then you might not get the result you want the first time, but just keep going and look back and improve, and you'll get there in the end. And yeah, there's that. Like I know you mentioned looking on the internet. There's definitely a lot of resources to help people out with making props and stuff. Whether I know back in the day when I used to do cosplay, there used to be a program called Peppercora, which used to be for like printing off like um, like sheets of paper that would have like guidelines on how to build props. And that was sort of like a paper mache type thing. But there's other resources like the 405th, which is big for the Halo cosplay scene, which will have loads of like guides and tutorials and stuff on there as well. So yeah, the two core pieces of advice I got from that was basically just keep trying, do your best, and ask for help if you need it, and look for help if you need it. So the great pieces of advice, and it's really nice to hear like how you've gone through that journey and got to where you are with your cosplay and stuff as well. It's really cool.
Yeah,
Um,
and actually, now that you talk about the 404, I looked a lot to what they have, the guides and all of that stuff, and I remember Pepakura too.
Oh, you ran
Uh,
the perfect one, yeah.
yeah, I started like getting into that uh, when I saw that I wanted to improve my methods. So I took a lot of inspiration from them, and I actually
Mhm,
talked to some of the cosplayers around the 404. And
mhm.
the cosplayers that I have talked with, they are very cool people. Uh, they are going to give you an advice if you need it, and they are going to like encourage you to keep trying because they already know how to do stuff. So uh, maybe another voice with a little more experience may be useful.
Yeah, definitely. There's always a ton of people on the 405 that are always willing to help, and if there's any particular area that if you're making a cosplay and you're not quite sure how to do something, there's always people that are going to be out there that have done it before that are willing to give their like tips and tricks out to try and help the process better for everyone else. So yeah, definitely check out the 405 and just speak to other cosplayers as well, because that's always going to be helpful. Now, in regards to your own actual like cosplay and props and stuff, where would people go to find like any like pictures or any information about your own creations?
Well, I have all my pictures and some stories with like the building process of my props on Instagram. I
Mhm,
am Sorzus, like here.
mhm.
Sorzus. Oh, sorry, I always forget my own Instagram
It's
name.
okay. So do you want me to read it out? Because I've got it up. If you want me to read it.
Yeah, I think that on Instagram there are not a lot of sources,
Mhm. Yeah.
so
So
it's easy to
if you
find.
if you just type Sorzus and then it's underscore Z 329, so it's SORZUS underscore Z 329. That's where you want to go
Yeah,
basically.
that's right.
Um,
So
yeah.
there you can see what I have done, and if any of you want to talk to me about anything related to cosplay or related to anything, I think that I will do what other cosplayers did with me when I was starting in this, and it's being very kind and trying to encourage other people to keep to keep inventing.
Yeah, that's really nice to hear. It's the one thing the Halo community does well is help each other and spread positivity and always lend a helping hand. So it's nice to hear that you're also trying to engage with that and help other cosplayers out. So yeah, definitely be sure to check out Sorzus if you wanna get some help
Yeah,
with your
and
cosplay.
actually, here in my country, I don't know a lot of cosplayers of Halo. I know some other cosplayers, but I think that I am kind of a lone Spartan here. So if there is someone else like from my country or from Latin America in general,
Mhm,
uh, it may be like interesting that we could start like growing as a Halo community as well as in other parts of the world, because here we are very spread. That's why I like to do this, because it's like a message to that we are not alone here, and the world may start knowing us for this too, because here we have many good ideas, even if we
mhm,
don't have like all the techniques and all the technology that other people around the world may have to build the suits, to build the armors.
mhm. Yeah, no, definitely. Fingers crossed that this little Q&A can try and help spread the word as well. Because we're definitely that's part of what we try and do on Halo Spotlight as well is kind of spread the word and bring people together and connect people. So hopefully hopefully you get some messages from some other fellow cosplayers, and yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing
Yeah, I would be very glad.
about the results. Yeah. Well, it's been really nice to kind of hear your story, especially from how you got into cosplay, and it was your family and your grandma that helped you out and stuff. It's really wholesome to hear. It's not something that you really hear too much when it comes to cosplay, so it's really nice to hear that that's how you got into things. But as far as the questions go, I've pretty much finished with all the questions. Is there anything you want to share with anyone before we close off, or anything you want to say to anyone before we close off the Q&A?
Well, what I could say is like to everyone like that, as you said, the Halo community, it's something that we have built about to know each other, to connect the world, and I liked a lot like this space because we are different persons from very far places in the world, and I like that. I think that this is what it is supposed to be, a community like of cosplaying, of gaming, something that could make us more united in times that we are like in our own world, in our own mind, and it's very cool. I really like this, and I really like how cosplaying and how Halo has gotten me to know people around the world and to hear other experiences, and I really like all of this.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel the exact same. The community is really something that's more than just a community. It's like a family, like worldwide. I know most of my friends that I speak to are from, not from where I live. They're from different places all over the world. So I can definitely echo that sentiment as well. It's definitely a lovely community that we have with Halo. So yeah, awesome. Well, thanks very much. I appreciate you coming on and talking about your cosplay and your creations and the journey you've had with it. It's been really nice talking to you. So thanks very much for taking the time to come on to the Q&A.
Thank you too. I really like doing this. It's very cool to talk like about all of this and to think that maybe this will be useful for someone who is trying to get into cosplaying or even into Halo.
Yeah, fingers crossed. That would be great to always bring more people into the community and help the community is definitely something that I aim to do quite a lot personally as well. So yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. People reach out to you after this Q&A goes up, and then you can make even more awesome cosplay friends and Halo friends. But yeah, we're gonna end the Q&A there. Thanks to everyone who came to listen to the Q&A or read if you're reading it over on HaloSpotlight.com. You can check out my own personal Twitter account over on writing_Spartan on Twitter. You can also check out Sorzus on Instagram, which is SORZUS_Z329. There will also be a link to that in the piece as well. So if you're not sure about where to look, you can always check out the piece for a link to that. And yeah, hopefully I will speak to you all again soon, everyone. And thanks again for tuning in. Goodbye.